Here we're going to talk about solving equations when they're already factored. So later on you'll do both of these, factor and solve, but we're looking at what if they're already factored. Well, this kind of breaks down to one kind of simple idea, but you might not notice it to these at first, is if I told you I had two numbers, a times b, it could be anything, multiplied by each other. When I multiply them, I get an answer of 0. You know either one of them has to be 0. So it could be a times 0, that would give you 0, or it could be b times 0. So there's two ways to get that to happen. One of those two numbers has to be 0. It's the only way you could get two things to multiply to be 0. So when you have something factored, you essentially are talking about the same thing. See how this group, since it's in parentheses, you have this number times this number equals 0. So there's one of two ways you can make that happen. Either the first factor has to equal 0, or the second factor has to equal 0. So you can set any number of individual factors to 0. You know that's the only way they can multiply to give you 0. And so if I make u minus 9 0, add 9 to both sides, that means u could be 9. Or u minus 8, add 8 to both sides, or u could be 8. So this is how in ones that are quadratic, so have a u squared before it was factored, you end up very often with two different answers. So u could be 9 or it could be 8. Alright, so in this other one, let's try it. Negative 5. Technically that's a factor, right? It's negative 5 times this, so it's like there's three factors here. But think about that one for a second. Negative 5 equals 0. There's nothing you can do to make negative 5 equal 0. So while that's one of our factors, since it doesn't have a variable, you don't get a solution from that one. So negative 5 equals 0. That doesn't do anything for us. But v plus 8 equals 0 could make this work. Or the negative v plus 6 equals 0 could make this work. So I could subtract 8 from both sides. So here I get v equals negative 8. And here I could subtract 6 and have negative v equals negative 6. Or I could just add v to both sides. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or right. So I get 6 equals v. And so there I have two answers, negative 8 or 6. All right, let's try one more that has kind of a two-step solve in it. So if we have something factored to 4z minus 6 multiplied by 9 minus z. So I have this or this could equal 0. So if I set 4z minus 6 equal to 0, picture add 6 to both sides to get rid of a negative 6. And now I have to divide both sides by 4. And then we want to make sure if we have fraction answers they're reduced all the way. 6 and 4 are both divisible by 2. So it looks like that's 3 over 2. And then here if I make 9 minus z equal to 0, because it could be either factor could equal 0 to make this work, so 0 times anything would still be 0. I could subtract 9, but I think I'll add z just so I don't have to do as many steps. So 9 equals z. So you have two answers here. Z could be 3 halves, or z could be 9.